Hello everyone, welcome to yet another book review. Today we will talk about Brain Rules for Baby, How to Raise a Smart and Happy Child from 0 to 5 by Dr.John Medina. Parenting is a very unique experience. As a new parent, I had a million doubts about how to raise my child. I'm sure as a new parent, you all will have a lot of questions about raising your own child. After reviewing a lot of titles, I decided to read this book, and today we will see what Dr. John has to offer. Dr. John Medina is a molecular biologist and also teaches at the University of Washington School of Medicine. You may be familiar with this author with his book called Brain Rules: 12 Principles of Surviving and Thriving at Work, Home, and School. But today we will talk about specifically his second book called Brain Rules for Baby. The book is organized into 8 chapters but starts with the basics, and also he follows a pattern of mythbusters, then research, and then suggestions. The first chapter is all about having a healthy pregnancy. Now, while this section may sound repetitive and cliched, especially if you have read the What to Expect While Expecting type books, he tries to reiterate and stresses the fact that a healthy pregnancy is indeed a foundation stone of everything. The author continues his approach of starting with mythbusters, then providing insights into research being done, and finally some best practices. He continues with an explanation of how the senses get developed while a is in his mom's womb. The chapter is closed by discussing on 4 key things that can aid a baby's brain development. That being gaining the right weight, having a healthy nutritional diet, controlling stress, and having the right amount of exercise. Now, if you move on to the second chapter, it's all about how parents' relationship affects the baby. Any parent would vouch for the fact that their life completely changes once the little one arrives. Be it the day-to-day interactions, be it the career aspirations, be it taking care of the daily chores, and so on. This chapter of the book talks about how the dynamics of husband and wife changes once they become parents. Dr. Medina discusses how overwhelming it can be when the new one comes home and how both the parents can become exhausted and depressed. He goes on to discuss how fights between the parents can affect the baby, what can be done to help in such situations, and so on. Being able to empathize with each other is the most important factor that can aid new parents. Now, the third chapter is about the importance of making your baby feel very safe. I think this is especially the reason why they feel very comfortable when and attached to moms. After all, they spent 9 months together already. This chapter discusses in detail about how IQ tests and IQ can be very different depending on the measuring situation, why IQ tests may not be the final say, the importance of the genes, and so on. Later, he also discusses about 5 ingredients that constitutes a child's intellectual ability. Sorry. Desire to explore, self-control, creativity, verbal communications, interpreting non-verbal communications, and so on. Research indicates developing the ability to keep distractions away is more important than the IQ. It has been proved that this ability to help mount smarter children. Encouraging creativity and inquisitiveness also helps. Dr. Medina continues to discuss about how babies develop verbal communication skills and non-verbal communication skills. It is interesting that the baby is most capable of naturally learning the dominant language spoken during the first 6 months. He also argues that the expression shown to her, for example, about with your face as opposed to a puppet, are equally important. Research also suggests that developing these nonverbal capabilities help her to become a better team player in future days. The fourth chapter is about the importance of humans as companions and not electronics. This chapter is even more important in today's world where it's all about screens, screens, and screens. Quoting from the book, this chapter is about another key ingredient to better parenting: caring, loving, attentive guidance to the child. Author starts with the discussion with yet another mythbuster. A child's brain is not looking for guidance or learning new things, but to survive. Four brain boosters, as he calls it, is discussed in this chapter, being importance of breastfeeding, talking to a baby, playing or cuddling with her, and praising or encouraging the efforts she makes. It is a good read to learn how speaking to a baby often can help her improve his IQ, as well as ability to grasp things quickly. The chapter also discusses about how creating a playful environment helps rather than exposing to screens. The key learning for me from this chapter was that simply praising the kids for each and every small success or say you are smart for every time is not the right way. Instead, praising the efforts put by them irrespective of the outcome is more important. Now, if we move on to the next chapter, it's all about raising a happy child. The author reiterates some of the facts that happiness is driven from acts like altruism, being grateful, gratitude, and forgiveness. He continues with the discussion on why to help your child make friends. The chapter is heavy in its content and speaks of two key things: how emotions and empathy play important roles in your child's development. The chapter alludes a bit on how genes can also play a role in a child being happy. While reading this chapter, I was remembered about the discussions that Sona Lumbinski had in her book, The How of Happiness. If you are interested in reading about a review of the same, I have provided a link in the comment section. Now, if we move on to the next chapter, it's all about controlling your own emotions. The discussion is about emotions, attachments, how a parent's reaction to an act of a child can affect her. It is interesting to know that a baby at birth itself expresses disgust, distress, and interest. Within 6 months, she can express anger, sadness, fear, surprise, or joy. And in another 1 year, she can feel others' emotions like jealousy, embarrassment, guilt, or pride. The chapter continues to discuss on various research done on parenting styles. Later, he concludes that an authoritative style that is high on responsiveness and high on demandingness is the right way to approach it. The key learning again for me from this chapter was about how labeling can control emotions. The author gives a nice example of a father teaching his daughter about jealousy. Now, if you look at the next chapter, it's all about raising a model baby. To be honest, when I reached this chapter, I was getting a bit bored with the author's writing style of circling around and around the same concepts, more like a beating the bush. The three key factors, according to the author, to raise a model child are setting clear and concise rules, associating rewards, shift punishments in the event of non-compliance, and more importantly, all rules being well explained well beforehand. It was reiterating the fact that we should not only praise good behavior but also absence of a bad behavior. Now, the final chapter was all about he talking about two schools of thought on how to handle sleeping habits. Later, he also provides some suggestions around how to improve babies' sleeping habits. Now, if you look at the first school of thought, it was championed by William Sears, also called as NAP or nighttime attachment parenting. This is perhaps an old school of thought that vouch for being with the baby whenever you can so that she feels comfortable and safe. The second school of thought is by Richard Ferber, also called as CIO, Cry It Out. In this, the baby is let alone to get pacified herself through a stepped approach of soothing the baby. I believe these are two extremes and perhaps also depend on various factors like cultures, your own comfortness, and circumstances. The author suggests to give a trial and error method to find out which suits the baby and also advises not to change any sleeping habits in the first 6 months. The book ends with a reiteration of how it is important to encourage empathy and controlling emotions for a smart and happy child. It's all about developing an empathetic child for an empathetic adult in future. Overall, a good book, a bit dragging with circling back of the same discussions. I would consider it to be a one-time read. I believe each parent-child relationship is unique in its own way. I hope you liked the review today and will find the book interesting read. Thank you so much.